Oh, yeah. I know they gon' remember me, 'cause I'm gon' leave a legacy.
Hey family, it's Dr. Dez here with another episode of the Bowtie Chronicles. I want to give a shout out to my SOS family. Thank you for doing such great work. But we're here, and the next series that we're going to enter into is one dealing with changing the narrative. We're going to look at diversity, equity, inclusion as a means of changing the narrative in your business, in your organization, or even in your household, the places that you represent best. So let's take a look at culture and climate. When we think about culture, what do you think of? It is the culture of the place in which you work, you worship, you spend a considerable amount of time. It's the culture. It's the way that we do things around here. And the climate is, how do people feel when they're experiencing your culture, right? So when you think about culture, I want you to begin to think about how the things that you do on a daily basis impact all those people who are involved in that experience, all of the stakeholders. So these are the internal stakeholders, the external stakeholders. And if you find that there's some issues with the way that things are done around here, you really want to change the narrative. I want to offer you 3 things that will help you to change your narrative. It takes some work. It is sometimes heavy lifting, depending on what the narrative is in your respective place of business. And we're going to talk about it from the perspective of business, although you can interchangeably do it, your business, your organization, your club, your church, things of that nature. So think about your culture. And you have to know that culture is your daily activities. It's the things, it's your beliefs, it's your values, the norms of your behavior, your routines, your traditions, the sense of making within your particular organization or business. It's your perspectives. That's the culture that you create within your environment. And I think that when you look at the culture of who you are, the culture speaks volumes. The culture speaks volumes. The culture of this place, is it a place that nurtures wonderful people who are passionate about the work that they do? Is it a culture that supports diversity of thought? Is it a culture that supports inclusion, meaning everyone has an equal stake at the table? Is it a culture that promotes equity? That means that everyone that we experience is adding value to the culture of the organization. Now, when we think about the climate, you're talking about how we feel when we have this experience. How do I feel when I come into your business? A quick situation. I recently had an experience where I got a new phone. And as you know, you get a new phone and things aren't as they have been historically. At one point, you'd get a new phone, you can take it into the organization or the business, and they'll just set everything up for you, right? I admit that I'm not tech savvy. That's just the person that I am. I have some skill sets, but that's not one. And it's important that I recognize my strengths and my weaknesses. So I get this phone and it has directions, and I get the phone, I call in, I follow the directions, and it just doesn't work. Whatever they're recommending based upon the instructions, it's not taking. So then it says, if you continue to experience this problem, please call your representative. So now I call the representative. And after 20 minutes of going through all of these different virtual prompts and things of that nature, I don't get a person. So I start the whole process over. So I do it again for 20 minutes, right? Now I'm becoming frustrated. And the fact that I'm becoming frustrated now moves me out of a place of, I can see things rational. Now I've become emotional about my experience. And so after another 20 minutes, now I finally get to a person. I push this button, I push this button, I push the star, I've done all of these different things. And all I'm saying now is speak to a representative. Speak to a representative. Speak to a representative. Finally, the representative gets on the phone and I walk them through the experience that I've had with following the instructions, making the phone call, all of those things. And the person says, oh, well, we're having some problems on our end. What? Think about that. If you're the business, if you're the organization, if you're the church, and the problem truly exists on your end, but you've given individuals instructions as to how to do all that they wanted to do. You've given them instructions as to how to properly install this thing. You've given them instructions as to what they should do. They are relying on the instructions that you provided. They're relying on you to guide them through this experience. So needless to say, after about an hour and 10 minutes, I'm very frustrated. I'm not mad at you, the person that's calling or that I've finally been able to reach. I'm frustrated with the situation. As a organization, as a business, you have to absorb the frustration that your client is feeling. You have to absorb the frustration that your consumer is experiencing. The reason that you do that is because your brand is at stake. Your brand is at stake anytime that somebody feels uncomfortable with the experience that they're having. So again, after an hour and 10 minutes, I now speak to this person and they say, hey, the problem is on our end. Well, why didn't you say that up front? As an organization, we have to be willing to take the high road. As a business, you have to be willing to absorb the frustration and make the experience as pleasant and as positive as absolutely possible. Don't point fingers and say, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. Take the high end. Take the high end so that individuals will appreciate your brand, and the experience that they had with you will be one that they leave there saying, I want to experience this again. They took care of me, right? If your culture is such that you are more reticent to address the issue and the flaw that the consumer has without taking the responsibility for the entire situation, take the high road. Take responsibility for the entire situation. Allow the person to vent, express their emotions, and then come back to it and say, okay, I understand your frustration. How can I help you? Our goal is to make sure that you are comfortable and confident in the experience that you had with us. The culture is so vitally important because your goal is to have repeat customers, individuals that want to come back and have an experience with you. And if it's not a customer, if we're talking about your church, you want that first time visitor to be so thrilled in their experience until they want to come back. And not only do they want to come back, but they want to tell their friends about the wonderful experience that they had. So now I've got this problem. I'm working with someone to solve my problem. They say that the problem is on their end and it should be corrected automatically at midnight. The system will reset, da-da-da-da. So I wake up the next morning. I was frustrated when I went to bed, prayed about it, went to sleep, woke up, and they said everything should be good. So when you wake up in the morning, just restart your phone and everything should be great. I restart my phone in the morning and it's not great. So now I take the phone to one of their representatives, one of their outlets, one of their stores. I get there, the gentleman, first thing he says is, okay, how can I help you? I'm pleased now because he wants to help me and I feel like he wants to help me. So I explained to him my situation. He then says, well, did they send you instructions? And I pull out the instructions, I show them to him. And he said, okay, well, all we can do is tell you to follow the instructions. I'm upset. Because not only is my phone not working, you're telling me to follow the instructions. I'm telling you I followed the instructions and I still don't have the experience that I'm appreciating, what I was looking forward to. Things are not looking the way that I wanted them to look. If your culture is one that doesn't support helping people to move forward, you have to accept responsibility for that and examine your culture and the climate. The climate is how I feel when I have this experience. I did not feel good. I didn't feel good after the hour and 10 minutes before I can reach someone on the phone and actually speak to someone. I wasn't pleased with when the person said, well, it's a problem on our end. And then the problem wasn't resolved the next morning. So I go to a place that I expect will resolve the issue. And when I get there, I felt good. The climate was positive when I showed up. But as I shared my situation, my concern, the climate shifted. What happens when the climate shifts? When the climate shifts from a warm and pleasant place to a place that now you feel cold, now you feel as though you are a burden, then that means that there's something that isn't good in the atmosphere. Organizations that look to have repeat customers, that want to seriously protect their brand, it's important that you make the culture one that is not only real good, really an awesome experience for the consumer, but also for your employees. You want them to feel good about coming to work every day. You want them to feel good about the work that they do. You want them to invest. They want to feel as this place is investing in me, therefore I feel comfortable in investing in them. The culture should be such that every person here, the person that comes in, the person that's already there, the person that works for the institution, the person that's the frontline person. So the first person you speak to is someone that has to have a very positive outlook, because if they don't have an outlook, that changes the narrative in regards to the experience. So if you want to change the narrative for a more positive experience, there are a number of things that you can do to do so. And we want to help you as an organization, as a business, as a community. We want to help you to make sure that your culture is tight, your culture is positive, your climate is positive for every person that has an experience with your organization. Part of the reality is when you're surrounded by people who share a passionate commitment around a common purpose, anything is possible. So the culture that you currently have, if it's not one that's positive, you can change it. You've got to know that when you're surrounded by people who share a passionate commitment around a common purpose, anything is possible. So your culture may not be positive now, but there's a way that you can change it. And we want to help you to make that change. Motivating Factor exists so that we can create and empower individuals to be their very best person. Also know that what you do, how you speak, and what opportunities you provide your team all affect the climate of your organization. Let me say that again. What you do, how you speak, and what opportunities you provide for your team, your internal team, they all affect the climate of your organization. And what we want to do is help you to create a climate that supports positive things. We want to protect your brand. We want to put you in a position where you've been empowered to now do those things that create a wonderful experience for the consumer. So they'll come back again, and again. So it's all about changing your narrative. We want to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that's what we'll be talking about. So if you're interested in having some additional support and creating a culture and climate that will support your brand and move your brand forward, we want you to reach out to us. I'm Dr. Daniel at Motivating Factor, and you can reach out to me, email me. We'd love to work with you. Remember, it's all about what you do for the individuals, the consumers, the internal stakeholders, those employees that work with your organization, and they have a passion and they're really excited about coming to work every day, but they want to work within a place where the climate and the passion is supported at all levels. So if you want to change your narrative, and we encourage you to change your narrative, if you don't like the narrative that you currently exist within, make a change. It's all about changing so that your future can be better than your past. And so that your future will reflect the brand that you want to exist well beyond the experience that both the internal and external stakeholders expect. I'm Dr. Dez here with the Bowtie Chronicles. We want you to be a part of this experience. Look us up. We want to help you. Until we meet again, be encouraged.